My sister, Chloe, and I were both orphans. Now, I had just reincarnated back to the day we went to the adoption agency to choose our daughters. In our past life, I adopted Lily, a quiet and silent girl, while Chloe took Mia, who was pretty and had a sweet tongue. Later, Lily's random doodles became a global phenomenon. She made me a billionaire overnight, lifting me from a struggling office worker to generational wealth. Meanwhile, Chloe's business was constantly blackmailed by Mia's biological parents under the guise of child abuse. She ended up bankrupt and completely lost her mind. Before she died, Chloe pushed me off the rooftop of a 23-story building. Why was your daughter a lucky charm while mine was a jinx? It's not fair, she screamed. In this life, Chloe didn't hesitate. She rushed straight to Lily and signed the adoption papers before I could even blink. Holding Lily, her supposed ticket to wealth, she flashed me a triumphant smile. Audrey, it's my turn to hit the jackpot in this life. I looked at Lily, who was shivering in Chloe's arms. Then I looked at Mia, whom Chloe had ruthlessly cast aside. Mia was staring at me with big, tearful, timid eyes. I smiled. What Chloe didn't understand was that a child's future is never decided by their innate nature. It is decided by the person who raises them. In the reception room of the adoption agency, Chloe held Lily tightly, laughing like a psychopath. Audrey, look at this. It's my turn to hit the jackpot in this life. Her eyes practically shone with greed as she spoke. I knew that look all too well. It was the exact same look she had when she pushed me off that high-rise building in our past life. Greedy, maniacal, and ruthless. I didn't say a word. I just stared at Lily in her arms. The little girl was as skinny as a beanpole, her face pale, her eyes filled with fear. She curled up in Chloe's arms like a terrified, wounded little animal. But Chloe didn't care about the child's terror. She was too busy gloating. Audrey, do you know? I dreamed about it. Lily is my lucky charm. Her random doodles will become a massive, global brand. She is going to make me a billionaire. Her voice shook with pure excitement. Looking at her, I found it hilarious. In our past life, when I adopted Lily, Chloe had hugged Mia with the exact same excitement before walking away. Back then she told me, Audrey, Mia is so pretty and sweet. She's definitely going to bring me good luck. And what was the result? Mia's biological parents tracked her down, blackmailing Chloe with false accusations of child abuse. Chloe's business went under, and she completely lost her mind. In the end, she pushed me off that roof. Right before I fell, she was still cursing. Why was your daughter a lucky charm while mine was a jinx? It's not fair. Not fair? I clutched my chest. The dull, agonizing pain of the fall felt as if it had happened just yesterday. Falling from the 23rd floor, the sound of my bones shattering was still crystal clear. I remembered it was raining that day. Cold rain mixed with my blood ran into my eyes. I looked up and saw Chloe standing on the edge of the roof, her face twisted like a demon. It's all your fault. Everything is because of you, she shrieked, then turned and walked away. She didn't even give me a second glance. When I died, Lily was in Europe hosting her art exhibition. She had no idea that the mother who raised her for over 10 years had been murdered by her own aunt. Audrey, are you even listening to me? Chloe's sharp voice dragged me back to reality. She had already signed the adoption papers and was getting ready to leave with Lily. I'm leaving now. Have fun taking care of Mia, she said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Mia stood in the corner, her eyes red and puffy. She had been crying the entire time because Chloe had suddenly changed her mind and rejected her. The caseworker, Mrs. Gable, was still trying to reason with her. Miss Chloe, you clearly agreed to adopt Mia earlier. I changed my mind, okay? Chloe cut her off impatiently. Lily suits me better. It's none of your business. She turned and walked out without looking back. Lily struggled slightly in her arms, trying to look back at Mia. Chloe pushed Lily's head down. Don't look. From now on, you're my daughter. She has nothing to do with you. I heard Lily whimpering quietly. It was a tiny, fragile sound, like a hurt kitten. I closed my eyes. In our past life, when Lily first came to my home, she cried just like that. She hated talking. She would always curl up in a corner and draw by herself. I was dirt poor back then, living in a damp basement, unable to even afford an air conditioner. In the sweltering heat of summer, I would buy her popsicles and sit with her in the hallway just to catch a breeze. While she drew, I would read books beside her. We barely spoke, but we found peace in each other's company. Later, a gallery owner noticed her art and bought one of her paintings for $5,000. I cried tears of joy, and so did she. We hugged each other and cried like two fools. After that, her paintings sold for higher and higher prices, eventually turning into a massive franchise. I went from a simple office worker to a self-made billionaire. I bought her a mansion, sent her to the best schools, and gave her the finest life possible. I thought we would be happy forever. Until Chloe pushed me off that building. Audrey. Mia's timid voice pulled me out of my thoughts. She looked up at me, her eyes overflowing with tears. That lady didn't want me. Are you going to leave me behind too? I looked at her. In our past life, When Chloe adopted her, she had looked just as pitiful. Chloe spoiled her rotten, buying her the most expensive designer clothes and sending her to elite private schools. But Chloe didn't know that Mia had already been brainwashed by her horrible biological parents. Those parents were absolute human trash. They had abandoned Mia at the agency on child welfare records specifically, so they could track her down after she was adopted and blackmail the wealthy adoptive family. They taught Mia how to play victim, how to win sympathy, and how to milk every penny out of her adoptive mother. In our past life, the moment Chloe's business started taking off, they showed up. They claimed Chloe was abusing Mia, threatening to sue her and demanding massive payouts. To keep things quiet, Chloe paid them a fortune. But they only got greedier, demanding more money again and again. Eventually, Chloe's business was dragged down to bankruptcy, and she had a mental breakdown. She blamed all her failures on me. She blamed my daughter for being a lucky charm, and hers for being a curse. She believed I had stolen her luck and ruined her life. And that was why she killed me. I gently patted Mia's head. "I will take you home," I said. Mia's eyes lit up for a second, then quickly dimmed. "But that lady said I'm a jinx," she whispered, her voice barely audible. I smiled gently. "She doesn't know anything. A child's future is never decided by their nature. It's decided by the person who raises them." I finalized the adoption paperwork for Mia and walked out of the agency with her. As we left, I glanced back. Chloe was happily putting Lily into her car, a smug, victorious smile plastered across her face. I brought Mia back to the small apartment I bought with my savings from my past life. It wasn't huge, just a cozy, one-bedroom apartment of about 600 square feet. But it was a million times better than the damp basement I lived in during our past life. At least there were large windows, plenty of sunlight, and no moldy smell in the summer. Mia stood at the doorway, hesitant to step inside. "Come on in," I said. She stepped inside cautiously, her eyes scanning the place. "This is your room." I pushed open the bedroom door. The room wasn't massive, but I had decorated it in advance. There were pink curtains, clean white sheets, and a small study desk. Mia froze in her tracks. Is this for me?" "Of course. Who else?" I asked. Tears instantly welled up in her eyes. "Mom." She called me Mom. My heart softened for a brief second, but I quickly suppressed the emotion. I couldn't afford to spoil her. In our past life, Chloe had ruined Mia by spoiling her too much, which eventually led to both of them being destroyed by Mia's biological parents. In this life, I was going to raise her differently. "Don't cry. Unpack your things and we'll go out for dinner," I said. Mia wiped her tears and nodded obediently. I took her to a small diner nearby and ordered 2 bowls of noodles. Mia ate ravenously, finishing every last bite in no time. "Was it good?" I asked. She nodded quickly. "From now on, if you want to eat something, just tell me," I said. "But remember, if you want something in life, you have to earn it yourself." Mia blinked, looking slightly confused, but she nodded anyway. After dinner, I took her to a shopping mall. She stopped in front of a toy store, her eyes locked onto a beautiful doll. "Mom, can I have?" Before she could finish, I cut her off. "If you want it, buy it yourself." Mia was stunned. "But I don't have any money." "Then find a way to earn it," I replied. "Starting today, you'll get an allowance for doing chores around the house. Once you save enough, you can buy the doll." A flicker of resentment flashed through Mia's eyes, but she quickly hid it and nodded obediently. "Okay, Mom." Watching her, a warning bell rang in my head. This kid wasn't simple. In our past life, Chloe was completely fooled by Mia's good girl act. On the surface, she was submissive, but her mind was always calculating. I couldn't let my guard down. When we got home, I assigned her chores: sweeping, dusting, and washing dishes. They were simple tasks, but she did them incredibly slowly. I didn't rush her. I just sat on the couch, reading my book. She peeked at me several times, and seeing that I didn't care, she had no choice but to keep working. When she finished, I inspected her work. "Not bad. Here is your allowance." I handed her a $10 bill. Mia took the bill, disappointment written all over her face. "Only $10? She muttered under her breath. "Too little?" I asked. She immediately shook her head. "No, it's fine. Thank you, Mom." I smiled but said nothing. I knew she was probably cursing me in her head. But it didn't matter. I had plenty of time to teach her. That night, lying in bed, I mapped out my future plans. I wanted to open a high-end dessert shop. In my past life, I was an excellent pastry chef. In this life, I would use those skills to build my own business empire. At the same time, I had 5 years to raise Mia into a decent, honest person. 5 years from now, her biological parents would show up. That inevitable extortion attempt was actually the most crucial part of my master plan. I was going to show Chloe exactly what kind of lucky charm she had stolen from me. I closed my eyes, and Lily's fragile face drifted into my mind. My dessert shop was located right at the entrance of our neighborhood. It was small, only about 200 square feet. But my recipes were perfected over a decade in my past life. The taste was absolutely unmatched. On opening day, I baked 100 egg tarts, and they sold out in just 2 hours. The next day, I baked 200, and it still wasn't enough. Within a month, my shop had become incredibly popular. Locals lined up every day, and some people even drove from across town just to buy my pastries. I was working nonstop, but I felt incredibly fulfilled. This was a million times better than sitting in a cubicle typing on a keyboard like I did in my past life. After school, Mia would come to the shop to help out. She handled the cash register, and she did a great job. I paid her daily wages, and she saved every penny diligently. A month later, she finally saved enough money and bought the doll she wanted. She hugged the doll, smiling brightly. "Mom, I bought it with my own money." I patted her head. "Good job." Her eyes shined with pride, but then they dimmed slightly. "Mom, can I ask you something?" she asked. "Go ahead." "Why are you so strict with me?" she asked. "Chloe is so nice to Lily. She buys her whatever she wants." I looked down at her. "Do you think that's actually good for her?" I countered. Mia was stunned. I don't know," she whispered. "Remember this, Mia. There is no such thing as a free lunch in this world," I said. "If you want something, you have to earn it yourself. What other people give you can be taken away at any moment. Only what you earn with your own hands truly belongs to you." Mia seemed to understand, nodding thoughtfully. Just then, the door was pushed open. Chloe walked in, dragging Lily with her. Chloe was wearing a cheap, wrinkled t-shirt, and her face looked exhausted. Lily looked even worse, pale, severely underweight, and her eyes were filled with absolute terror. My heart tightened. It had only been a month. How did they end up like this? When Chloe saw how busy my shop was, her face turned sour with jealousy. "Well, Audrey, look at you. Business is booming," she sneered. "It's all right," I replied casually. "You must have used some dirty tricks," she suddenly snapped, raising her voice. "Otherwise, how could a basic office worker like you afford a shop like this?" I looked at her, finding her jealousy pathetic. "Did you forget, Chloe? I was a professional pastry chef in our past life. Of course I know how to run a bakery." Chloe froze, her anger flaring even hotter. "So what? Why do you get to live the good life while I—" She stopped herself. I could tell she was having a miserable time. She thought that by adopting Lily, she would instantly get rich. But Lily hadn't shown any miraculous artistic talent yet. Chloe had spent all her savings, lost her job, and was now living on instant ramen. Meanwhile, I had opened a successful shop. Her mind was twisted with jealousy. Just then, Mia walked over holding a glass of lemonade. "Here is some water, Chloe," she said politely. As Chloe reached out to grab it, Mia's hand suddenly slipped. The lemonade splashed all over Chloe's shirt. "Ah!" Chloe shrieked, jumping back. Mia immediately shrank behind me. "I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to," she sobbed, looking terrified. Chloe was furious, stamping her feet. "You little brat. You did that on purpose." "That's enough," I stepped in, blocking her. "She's just a kid. Why are you screaming at her?" Chloe glared at me. "Keep protecting her. Just wait until Lily's talent kicks in. You'll be begging me for money soon." She grabbed Lily's arm to pull her away. As she did, I noticed a dark, nasty bruise on Lily's forearm. "Wait," I called out, my voice dropping. "What happened to Lily's arm?" I demanded. Chloe's face turned pale. "None of your business," she snapped. "Mind your own life." She dragged Lily out of the shop. I watched their retreating figures, a heavy weight sinking into my chest. My dessert shop was ready for a major upgrade. I had gotten in touch with a major investor, Mr. Ethan Vance. He was a prominent venture capitalist in the city, owning several successful restaurant chains. If I could secure his funding, I could turn my shop into a franchise and expand rapidly. On the day of the contract signing, I wore a professional suit and arrived early at the conference room. Mr. Vance arrived shortly after, and our meeting went incredibly well. He loved my pastries and fully approved of my business expansion plan. "Miss Sterling, I have high hopes for your brand," he said, smiling. "Likewise. I look forward to working with you," I said, reaching out to shake his hand. Just as he was about to shake my hand, the conference room doors were violently kicked open. Chloe burst in, followed by a middle-aged, trashy-looking couple. "Audrey, you heartless, evil bitch." The woman rushed in, immediately grabbing my hair, screaming and slapping at me. "How dare you abuse my daughter?" she shrieked. Caught completely off guard, I felt a burning pain shoot across my face. Mr. Vance immediately stood up, shouting, "What is the meaning of this? Stop this at once." Chloe stepped forward, pointing at me. "Mr. Vance, see for yourself. These are Mia's biological parents. My sister not only abuses the poor girl, but she also locks her up and refuses to let her see her real family. How can you do business with a monster like her?" Mr. Vance's face turned incredibly grim. The trashy couple kept screaming at me. "Where did you hide our daughter? Hand her over right now, or we're calling the cops." Chloe kept fueling the fire. Audrey, how could you be so cruel? They are Mia's real parents. How could you keep their child from them? She spoke with such self-righteousness, acting as if she were the hero of the story. Mr. Vance looked at me, his eyes filled with deep suspicion. Miss Sterling, what is going on here? I didn't say a word. My face was pale, and my body was shaking. Seeing me like this, Chloe looked smugger than ever. She leaned in close to my ear, whispering in a voice only I could hear. Your Lucky Charm daughter is in my hands, and your little Jinx has her bio parents knocking on your door. Audrey, you lose. Her voice was dripping with venom. I closed my eyes, my body swaying as if I were about to collapse. Chloe and the couple grinned, thinking they had completely broken me. But then, I suddenly lifted my head. I wiped away a tear that didn't exist and looked straight at Chloe. Chloe, who told you they are Mia's biological parents? Chloe froze. What? What do you mean? I turned to the trashy couple, my expression ice cold. The daughter you're looking for isn't with me, I said clearly. Your real daughter, Lily, is currently at my sister's apartment, being beaten black and blue by her every single day. Chloe's face turned instantly white. The trashy couple stood there, completely dumbfounded. What? What kind of nonsense are you talking about? The woman shrieked. I pulled an official document from my briefcase. This is the DNA test result for Lily and the two of you. A 99.99% match. Father and mother. The daughter you abandoned years ago is Lily. The silence in the conference room was suffocating. The paper in my hand, an official certified DNA report from the State Forensic Laboratory, lay flat on the glass table. Henry and Brenda, the trashy couple who had just been screaming and lunging at me, stood frozen. Brenda's mouth hung open, her dirty fingernails still hovering. In midair, Henry slowly reached out, his trembling, tobacco-stained fingers, picking up the document. 99.99% biological match. Henry stammered, his bloodshot eyes darting. Across the medical stamps. Lily, the girl at the adoption agency 7 years ago, was our kid. Chloe's face went from smug victory to an ugly, translucent gray. She took 3 frantic steps backward, her high heels catching on the carpet. No, that's impossible. Chloe shrieked, her voice cracking into a high-pitched, pathetic whine. Audrey, you forged that. You paid off the lab. Lily is the Lucky Charm. She made you a billionaire in our last life. She can't belong to these trashy peasants. Mr. Vance lowered his glasses, his face dark as a thundercloud as he looked between Chloe, the couple, and the document. Miss Sterling, Mr. Vance said, his voice dropping into a deep, authoritative baritone. What is going on here? Who are these people, and why is this woman threatening you? Mr. Vance, I apologize for the disruption, I said, my voice calm, elegant, and completely composed as I smoothed down my blazer. This woman is my twin sister, Chloe. 7 years ago, when we went to adopt from the state agency, she abandoned her original match and deliberately snatched Lily, the child of these 2 individuals. I turned my eyes to Henry and Brenda, whose shock was rapidly melting into a dark, greedy gleam. 3 weeks ago, I continued, I noticed a dark, severe bruise on Lily's arm. When Chloe brought her to my shop, I ran a confidential background check on the child's birth records to ensure her safety. It turns out Henry and Brenda abandoned Lily at the county hospital 7 years ago to avoid medical bills, and they've been searching for her ever since. Henry's eyes widened to the size of saucers. He turned his head slowly, looking at Chloe as if she were a walking gold mine. You, Brenda breathed, stepping toward Chloe, her previous rage at me completely forgotten. You took our daughter, and you've been beating her. I didn't beat her. Chloe screamed, backing up against the wall, her eyes filled with sheer panic. She fell. She's just weak. Get away from me, you filthy parasites. You touch my blood, and you call us parasites? Henry roared, grabbing Chloe by her collar and shoving her against the doorframe. Where is she? Where is our daughter? Mr. Vance, I said smoothly, pulling my briefcase toward me. Shall we sign the investment contract in your private office downstairs? Security can escort these individuals out. Mr. Vance looked at Chloe and the screaming couple with pure, unadulterated revulsion. Security, get these people out of my building immediately, and call the police if they resist. As 6 heavy-set guards flooded the room, Henry grabbed Chloe by her hair while Brenda grabbed her arm, dragging her out into the hallway as Chloe shrieked like a slaughtered pig. Audrey, you set me up. You set me up, you bitch. Chloe's screams echoed down the corridor, fading into the distance. I sat back down, offered Mr. Vance a serene smile, and handed him my fountain pen. Now, Mr. Vance, I said softly, let us discuss the franchise expansion. Within 24 hours of the conference room scene, the nightmare that Chloe had tried to thrust onto me landed squarely on her own doorstep. Henry and Brenda didn't go to the police to reclaim Lily. They were professional bottom feeders. They knew that if they took Lily back, they would just have another mouth to feed. But as long as Lily remained in Chloe's hands, they held the ultimate leverage, an official DNA match and evidence of child abuse. The very next evening, Henry and Brenda broke into Chloe's rented apartment. They found Lily locked in a dark storage closet, shivering on a thin blanket, covered in fresh bruises where Chloe had pinched and slapped her out of frustration because the little girl still refused to draw or paint. Henry immediately pulled out his smartphone, filming the entire dark room, the bruises on Lily's arms, and the moldy bread on the floor. "Look at this." Brenda's voice boomed on the video, full of righteous, predatory fury. The great adoptive mother, beating an innocent child, starving her. Chloe rushed in from the kitchen, holding a broom, her eyes bloodshot. "Get out of my house. Get out before I call the cops." "Call the cops," Henry sneered, stepping into her space, his foul breath hitting her face. "Go ahead. Let the police see these bruises. Let the news stations see how you treat your adopted kid. You'll go to prison for felony child abuse, you crazy bitch." Chloe's hand holding the broom began to shake violently. In her past life, she had watched Mia's biological parents use these exact same tactics to drain her business dry. She knew how terrifying public outrage could be. If this video leaked, her reputation would be destroyed, her small savings confiscated, and she would go to jail. What do you want?" Chloe whimpered, the broom slipping from her fingers, dropping to the floor with a loud clack. Henry smiled, displaying a mouth of yellowed, crooked teeth. He held up 5 fingers. $500,000, Henry said flatly. "You pay us $500,000 for custodial compensation. Or this video goes to the news networks tomorrow morning." $500,000. Chloe shrieked, her voice breaking. "I don't have that kind of money. I spent all my savings opening that failed boutique. I don't even have 50 grand. "Then find a way to get it," Brenda spat, grabbing a gold necklace from Chloe's vanity table and stuffing it into her pocket. "You have a rich twin sister, don't you? Go beg her. Otherwise, prepare your orange jumpsuit." They slammed the door as they left, leaving Chloe kneeling on the cold floor, sobbing hysterically. In the dark closet, little Lily curled into a tighter ball, weeping silently, without making a single sound. While Chloe was descending into her self-made hell, my life with Mia was flourishing. With Mr. Vance's $10 million venture capital injection, the Sterling dessert empire was officially launched. Within 3 months, we opened 12 high-end flagship stores across the city, specializing in artisanal pastries, organic fruit tarts, and luxury tea blends. I was no longer just a small business owner. I was the CEO of a rapidly growing brand. Despite my wealth, I never changed my approach to raising Mia. She remained in her public school, but I enrolled her in private management, etiquette, and finance classes on weekends. She continued to work at the main shop during holidays, earning her allowance by managing the inventory and tracking customer feedback. She was no longer the timid, manipulative little girl who tried to win favor with fake tears. She had become sharp, confident, and deeply pragmatic. She knew the value of every dollar because she had earned it herself. One Saturday afternoon, Mia sat across from me in my corner office at the corporate headquarters, reviewing the quarterly sales ledger. She was 14 now, wearing a crisp, tailored school blazer, her dark hair pulled back into a neat ponytail. "Mom," Mia said, pointing her pen at a line on the digital tablet. "The ingredient costs at the North District branch are 4% higher than the other stores. I checked the supplier invoices. The branch manager is using a secondary distributor to pocket a kickback." I looked at my daughter, a genuine, proud smile breaking across my face. "Good catch, Mia," I said. "How do you want to handle it?" "Fire him immediately, audit his inventory, and promote the assistant manager, who reported the discrepancy last week," Mia replied without a second of hesitation. "If we tolerate dishonesty once, the whole team will rot." I leaned back in my leather chair, taking a sip of tea. In my past life, Mia had been a parasitic brat who helped her biological parents bleed Chloe dry. In this life, under the weight of discipline, hard work, and clear boundaries, she had grown into a formidable, brilliant young woman, a true heir to my empire. A child's future is never decided by their nature, I thought silently. It is decided by the person who raises them. Knock. Knock. My secretary stepped into the office, her face pale and nervous. "Miss Sterling, your sister, Chloe, is downstairs in the lobby," the secretary whispered. She looks very bad. She's demanding to see you." Mia looked up from her tablet, her dark eyes flashing with cold disgust. "Tell security to throw her out." "Wait." I held up a hand, setting my teacup down with a soft clink. "Let her come up. It's time for the final chapter. When the elevator doors opened, Chloe looked like a living corpse. She wore a stained, rumpled coat that reeked of cheap alcohol and stale sweat. Her hair was thin and matted, her face gaunt, her cheeks hollowed out. Her hands trembled constantly. In just 6 months, Henry and Brenda had bled her completely dry. She had sold her car, her boutique equipment, her jewelry, and had taken out high-interest payday loans to satisfy their endless blackmail demands. But no matter how much she paid, they always came back for more. When she walked into my vast sunlit office, overlooking the city's skyline, adorned with modern art and leather furniture, her bloodshot eyes filled with a terrifying manic envy. "Audrey," Chloe rasped, her voice sounding like 2 dry stones grinding together. Mia stood beside my desk, her posture straight, looking at Chloe as if she were a piece of dirt on the floor. Chloe's gaze fell onto Mia. She saw Mia's healthy skin, her expensive blazer, her sharp, confident eyes, and the quiet authority she carried. Chloe let out a dry, bitter laugh that sounded like a cough. "Look at her," Chloe whispered, pointing a shaking, filthy finger at Mia. "Look at the little jinx. You turned her into a lady. You made her rich." "Mia isn't a jinx, Chloe," I said flatly, sitting behind my desk, my hands folded neatly. "She's a hard-working girl who earned everything she has." "Lies," Chloe suddenly shrieked, slamming her dirty hands onto the edge of my glass desk. "It's all lies. You tricked me, Audrey. You knew Lily was their kid. You let me adopt her on purpose." "I didn't trick you, Chloe," I replied, my tone completely unbothered. 7 years ago at the adoption agency, you were the one who pushed me aside. You were the one who grabbed Lily, laughed in my face, and said, 'Audrey, it's my turn to hit the jackpot in this life.'" Chloe froze. Her face went from pale to a dark, hideous purple. "You took her because you thought she was a golden goose," I continued, every word landing like an iron hammer. "You didn't love her. You didn't care about her. You locked her in a closet and beat her when she didn't paint pictures for you to sell. She was supposed to be a genius." Chloe wept, tears smearing her dirty face as she fell onto her knees in front of my desk. "In our last life, her paintings sold for millions. Why won't she paint for me? Why does she just sit there and cry?" I stood up, walked around the desk, and looked down at my weeping twin sister. "Because art requires a soul, Chloe," I said softly. "In our last life, Lily painted because she felt safe, loved, and cherished in our little home. Painted because I sat beside her in the heat, bought her popsicles, and told her she was precious." I leaned down, my voice dropping into a razor-sharp whisper. "You treated her like a lottery ticket. You beat her, starved her, and scared her into silence. You destroyed the very talent you tried so hard to steal." Chloe stared at me, her mouth open, her brain completely short-circuiting. She had spent 2 lifetimes believing that success was a magical gift handed down by fate, that daughters were either lucky charms or jinxes. She had never understood that the lucky charm wasn't Lily. The lucky charm was the mother who gave her everything. "Audrey, please," Chloe whimpered, crawling forward on her hands and knees, reaching out to grab the hem of my trousers. "Give me $500,000. Just 500 grand. Henry and Brenda said they'll kill me if I don't pay them by tonight. I'm your sister. Your twin." I took a step back, stepping smoothly out of her reach. "I have no sister," I said coldly. "My sister died the day she pushed me off the 23rd floor." Chloe's eyes dilated to the size of pinpricks. Absolute, primal terror shattered her mind. She realized I remembered everything. She realized I had known from the very first second of this life what she had done. I pulled out my phone and tapped a speed dial button. "Captain Miller," I said calmly into the receiver. "The suspect is in my office. You can come up now." The office door swung open. 4 uniformed police officers, accompanied by 2 representatives from Child Protective Services, walked into the room. Behind them stood Henry and Brenda, handcuffed together, their faces bruised and furious. They had been arrested at the apartment an hour ago when police raided the premises following a tip-off I had provided. "Chloe Sterling," the lead police officer announced, pulling out a pair of steel handcuffs. "You are under arrest for felony child abuse, child endangerment, and illegal confinement of a minor." No, Chloe thrashed and screamed as the metal cuffs clicked tightly around her wrists. "Audrey, save me. Mia, tell them I'm a good aunt." Mia didn't move an inch. She stood by my desk, her face impassive, watching Chloe get dragged toward the door, as if she were watching trash being removed from a room. "As for the child, Lily Sterling," the CPS representative said, stepping forward with a tablet. "Her birth parents have been formally stripped of parental rights due to felony abandonment and extortion charges. Miss Audrey Sterling as her aunt and registered foster provider, do you consent to taking temporary Emergency custody. I do, I said immediately. An hour later, I drove to the county hospital's pediatric ward. In a quiet, sunlit room, little Lily sat on the edge of a bed, wearing clean hospital pajamas. Her bruises had been treated, her thin hair washed, but her dark eyes were still wide, filled with deep, lingering fear. When the door opened and I walked in, carrying a soft plush teddy bear in a box of fresh, warm egg tarts from my bakery, Lily flinched, curling her legs toward her chest. I didn't rush toward her. I didn't make loud noises. I sat quietly on a wooden chair 3 feet away from her bed, set the warm egg tarts on the table, and pulled out a small sketch pad and a set of soft-colored pencils. I began to sketch quietly, the soft scratch of the pencil filling the peaceful room. After 10 minutes, Lily slowly uncurled her legs. She peeked over the edge of the blanket, her tiny, pale face looking at the drawing on my pad. It was a drawing of a small, bright yellow house with a wide garden, 2 little girls playing under a cherry blossom tree, and a mother sitting on a bench, holding a tray of warm pastries. Lily's breath caught in her throat. She took a slow, hesitant step off the bed, her small, bare feet walking softly across the clean floorboards until she stood beside my chair. She reached out her thin hand, her dirty fingernails now clean, and gently touched the paper. Is that me? Lily whispered, her voice fragile, raspy, but clear. I looked down at her, offering her the gentlest, warmest smile I had carried across 2 lifetimes. I handed her a soft blue pencil. It can be, I whispered softly, if you want to draw the flowers. Lily looked at the pencil, then looked into my eyes. For the first time in 7 years, the deep, suffocating fear in her dark pupils dissolved into a warm, sparkling tear. She took the pencil, sat beside me on the chair, and drew a small, bright red sun in the corner of the sky. 5 years later, the National Museum of Fine Arts was bathed in blinding, golden spotlights. Tonight was the opening ceremony of the Rebirth, the Youth Contemporary Art exhibition. Hundreds of international art collectors, critics, news reporters, and high society patrons filled the marble hall, whispering in awe as they stood before a massive, 10-foot canvas hanging in the center of the main gallery. The painting was titled, The Two Sisters. It depicted 2 girls standing on a hill, one holding a ledger and a set of keys, the other holding a paintbrush that turned dark, stormy clouds into golden sunlight. At the bottom corner of the canvas, written in elegant gold paint, was the signature, Lily Sterling. At 12 years old, Lily had officially become the youngest artist in history to have a solo exhibition at the National Museum. She didn't draw because she was beaten. She didn't paint because she was starving. She painted because her mind was filled with light, peace, and the warmth of a home that had protected her every single day for 5 years. Beside her stood Mia, now 19 years old, wearing an elegant dark evening gown, holding a clipboard as she managed the exhibition's media press team and security detail. She had officially passed her board exams and was taking over as Chief Operational Officer of the Sterling Enterprise Group next month. The 2 sisters stood side by side, laughing, their arms linked together, looking like true royalty. Ladies and gentlemen, the museum director announced over the microphone, his voice echoing through the grand hall. Please welcome the founder of the Sterling Educational Foundation and the mother of these 2 extraordinary young women, Ms. Audrey Sterling. The crowd erupted into thunderous, standing applause. I walked up the carpeted stairs to the stage, wearing an understated, bespoke, dark blue silk gown, my silver-tinted hair styled in a chic bun, my face radiant and serene. I stood beside my 2 daughters, pulling them both into my arms. Mom, Lily whispered, leaning her head against my shoulder. I drew the sun. Bright today, just like you told me. It's beautiful, Lily, I smiled, kissing her forehead. Meanwhile, 300 miles away, in the cold, damp laundry room of the state Women's Correctional Facility, a woman in a coarse orange uniform sat on a concrete stool, her hands raw and bleeding from scrubbing military bedsheets in icy water. It was Chloe. She had 3 years left on her sentence for child abuse. Her twin sister's name was mentioned on the small wall-mounted television in the guard station across the room. On the screen, Chloe watched Audrey standing under the golden chandeliers of the National Museum, surrounded by billionaires, news reporters, and her 2 thriving, brilliant daughters. Chloe stared at the screen, her mouth open, her hollow yellowed eyes filling with tears that no longer carried any power. She had stolen the lucky charm. She had stolen the lottery ticket. She had spent 2 lifetimes trying to cheat fate. And in the end, she sat in the dark, cold mud, while the sister she had pushed off a building ruled the world. Back at the National Museum, the flashbulbs exploded like a sky full of stars. I looked out at the warm, smiling faces of the crowd, then looked down at my 2 daughters holding my hands, stepping forward together into a future that was vast, golden, and entirely our own.